raise your hand if you've heard any of the following statements. You ready? They're easy. Playing video games leads to violent behaviors. There it is. Okay, cool. All right. All right, second one. If you play too many video games, you'll end up living in your parents' basement forever. All right? Okay, cool. Last one. This is the last one. All right, I promise. How many of you have heard that playing video games promotes positive relationships between people? And there it is. Look around. Ask yourself what just happened. Why is it that we've all heard the first two stories, but not this last one? Is there something different about kids who play video games when it comes to making friends and building relationships? Should the less social in society be left in that basement alone to play by themselves? Or is it possible to make something more of them? My name is Josh Bound, and I'm a teacher at the Career Magnet School in Chambersburg, Pennsylvania. And today I'm here to share my journey with you, which has led to an idea worth spreading. And that is that video games are the perfect tool for making the socially awkward socially active. Think about a relationship you have with a loved one, please. Take a minute, think about it. Think about what makes that relationship so awesome. For some of us, building relationships is literally as easy as opening a door. Just that simple. But for others in society, the door always seems to be locked. I ran into one of these locked doors when I was building a relationship with someone very, very important to me, my very own son. It's here in this relationship where my idea is going to take root. The heart of this story is me, a super social jock father who wants nothing more than to live his life watching his kids grow up on a sports field. Like I said before, this is where my story is going to take root. My idea is going to take root. As a jock father begins to look for ways to build a relationship with his non-jock, introverted son who wants nothing more than to be unconditionally loved. In case I didn't mention it before, my son sits on the autism spectrum. And building friends is something that is socially challenging for him. So when I say it's at the heart of this story is video games, you understand why. I'll never forget the day I truly began accepting my son for who he was. I was in my garage working on underneath a 1968 Carolina blue and white Volkswagen Beetle. It's a convertible. Flat on my back, gorgeous car. With a much needed screwdriver just 6 inches outside my reach. It's literally right there. At that moment, my son comes running into the garage for some reason. And as he's leaving, he's physically leaving, he's stepping over me. I call out to him, I say, hey buddy, can you do me a favor and give me that screwdriver? I can't reach it. Now, as expected, my son stops, he squats down, and he makes eye contact with me with that little kid, kind of hanging upside down sort of look. Do you know the look I'm talking about? Anyhow, he makes eye contact with me. He looks at me and he looks at the screwdriver and he says, well, my hands will get dirty, Dad. And then he wipes his hands off on his shirt like this, like he actually touched the greasy screwdriver and takes off running. Instantly for me, tears begin filling up in my eyes. My son and I had been on this autism roller coaster for like 7 years. And at that moment, everything came to a screeching halt. I physically couldn't connect with my son. I didn't understand him. I didn't understand him. He was literally as close as that screwdriver, but just as out of reach. Somehow through my devastation, I knew that that moment I would have to be the one who changed. If I was going to have a meaningful and true relationship with my boy, I would have to do it. Well, a couple days later, I would get this chance. We were shopping at a grocery store, and he started playing Mario Kart on a Nintendo Wii console that they had set up in the back. At that moment, another little boy comes running up to the machine, and grabs the second control and jumps in the game. Now, for the next 5 minutes of my life, I'm in absolute dad heaven. My son and a boy he had never met before in his entire life they raced go-karts like they'd been best friends their entire lives. And I knew at that moment this was it. This was my answer. This was it. So when I go home, I see my wife, I say, hey, Heidi, I'd like to allow our son to play video games so that when he goes to school, he'll have something to talk about with all the other little second graders. Now, to my surprise, my wife, she starts building the Great Wall instantly, the Great Wall of not in my house and he should play outside arguments. Classic, right? Nevertheless, look, needless to say, she was not a fan of the whole idea. And in fact, she actually asked me to not introduce video games until at least 6th grade, which I gotta tell you is a super long time. It's a ridiculously long time, in that fact, for a guy like me to wait, because I love instant gratification. Now, I admit it, I should have honored her wishes. Yeah, you know where this is going. You know. I should have honored her wishes. I admit it. And talked to her and discussed the purchase of such a life-altering machine. I admit it. But here's the thing. We'd been married like 12 years at that point, so I figured I'd test the old adage, it is always better to ask for forgiveness than permission, right? Right. Well, yeah, she was more than upset. Believe me, I know. I believe she was more than upset, especially when she came home and found her son playing Mario Kart in the living room, bouncing in place with excitement. But here's the thing. Mario Kart allowed me to teach my son to win and lose with grace and to give him a sense of accomplishment. Minecraft allowed me to look inside his mind and see all the critical thinking skills that were going on in a nearly limitless world. And Wii bowling allowed me to honestly lose at a sport to my 7-year-old. The truth is, video games were allowing me to make a real connection with my boy. And gaming finally allowed me the opportunity to teach him all of the team-oriented, problem-solving, critical thinking skills I always learned on the lacrosse fields of my youth. Now, about the same time as this revelation is going down with my personal son, I'm sitting in my classroom and I'm talking to 3 students. Look how beautiful they are. I'm sitting in my room with 3 students, Aiden Walent, Zion Patillo, and Saurav Patel. Well, the 4 of us are sitting around the table and we're basically discussing the pros and cons of the latest gaming consoles, right? When one of them, I think it was Zion, said out loud, hey, it'd be really cool if we had a video game club here at school, the Career Magnet School. Well, instantly, I began thinking of my son and how awesome it would be for him to play video games in a super social setting. So for me, I was all in. It was more than enough motivation for me. And besides, if I could build a club at a high school into a safe place for kids like my boy, well, in my book, that's a serious win. So by the end of the first day, the guys and I had created an entire iTunes U course. We recruited a second advisor, video game junkie Mike Pettinger, and we had 12 members the first day. By the end of the second day, though, it was a little different. Word was getting out about the video game club, so I needed an official go or no-go vote from my principal, Dr. Mark Long. Now, I hadn't been with Mark as long as I had been with my wife, so his permission was kind of necessary in this one. So before we met with Mark, we hashed out a conversation which focused on 2 key points. The first of which is a video game club will connect with all of the kids that the cool label had missed. And it'd give them a place for them to basically grow relationships on their own. And secondly, it'd be a wonderful opportunity to teach a bunch of introverted kids real-world soft skills and problem-solving techniques, thereby making them more employable when they graduated. Now, to our surprise, by the end of the conversation, we had not only formed a video game club, but Dr. Long was actually asking us what we needed from him. Now, yeah, me too. Now, before the shock wore off, that video games were literally kicking down the door of education. One of these guys yells out, a PlayStation 4 would be nice. And yeah, believe it or not, the student school board would actually buy us a PlayStation 4 to help get things started. I mean, it's unbelievable. When we came back to school the following fall, the guys and I started looking for ways immediately to help us become seen as more legitimate. At one of our meetings, we came across the website extralife.org, which promotes the idea of hosting 24-hour video gaming sessions, board games, video games, to raise money for children with cancer. Aidan Watt put it best that day when he said, "Mr. Brown, most of us play video games all night with each other online anyhow, so why not do it for a good cause?" And just like that, the Career Magnet School Video Game Club, now just being called the VGC, was raising money for Hershey Medical Center. And we were on our way to making a serious statement. Now, unfortunately, as we were prepping the building for that inaugural event, tragedy was going to strike close to home. A student was entering his senior year at the Career Magnet School, and he had come down, he'd been diagnosed with leukemia. Unfortunately, that student, Chris Sellers, would pass away just days before our event. There's nothing else you can say to it. The group voted unanimously to donate all the money from that first 24-hour video game marathon to Chris's family to help offset the cost of the funeral. Now, when I gave Chris's mom the over $1,500 we had raised, our kids wanted no praise or recognition. And it was becoming blatantly apparent to us that being socially active was to become our new thing. That was it. And the idea was gaining real traction because by the holiday break, we had eclipsed 100 members, which is roughly 1/7 of the entire school's population. We were really poised to break out because we were simply inspiring change. Now, out of that first fundraiser, as heartbreaking as it was, it inspired the founding members to push the new membership to do even more. For instance, as a result of our second video game marathon, we would purchase Nintendo Wii consoles for the pediatrics rooms of our local hospital. Every room has a Nintendo Wii. And in addition to that, we gave them an encyclopedia of DVDs and video games for their parents and children to enjoy while they recuperated. That spring, we would host a Minecraft room at the Chambersburg Area School District's Autism Walk. Just this past spring, we were not only asked to host the room again, but they actually tasked us with the idea of hosting a Nintendo Wii U party by projecting video games onto the walls of the hallways all around the building for these kids to celebrate each other and be with each other on this special day. Just this month, actually just last week, a second video game club would open its doors at the Chambersburg Area Senior High School. On its very first day, with just one morning announcement, over 100 kids signed up to become members. Now, with all the success that we've had at the Career Magnet School, and coupled with the idea that we opened another video game club at our sister high school, it's becoming more obvious to us that this process not only can, but should be repeated. So I'm proud to say that we have begun the establishment of the Video Game Clubs of America, a student-driven nonprofit organization designed entirely around the idea of establishing video game clubs in every high school across this country. We will supply these schools, any school that wants a video game system, a video game club, we'll supply them with a Nintendo Wii U console, select games, and controllers at absolutely no cost to them, and paid for entirely through our fundraising efforts. In addition, through our website, vgcusa.org, we will supply them with educational standards, parental consent forms, and curricula designed to maximize the impact of gaming in a high school and make running a club as simple as possible. Now, with all the things that we've been able to accomplish, I still have yet to tell you my most favorite memory for making the socially awkward socially active. This is good. About a year ago, we were formally challenged by the retirees at the Spirit Trust Lutheran Retirement Community, thank you, to games of Wii Bowling and board games. In case you don't know, Wii Bowling is it's a game that mimics the actual action of bowling, but in a video game format. Now, as the day approached to go bowl with old people, as the kids were calling it, it became apparent to me that their confidence was at an all-time high, because on the ride over, they talked about going easy on these people, all right? Waiting for our kids were some of the nicest grandmas and grandpas you could ever want to meet. And because of our host's demeanor, it became apparent that my kids' confidence was even more out of control because of what they saw as a bunch of easy marks. Unfortunately for these millennials, the greatest generation demonstrated why it had earned such a title. Now you know where this is going, right? Because when the bowling was over, my oh-so-confident students had lost. Now, I'd like to say that my kids went easy on them and let them win. But the truth of the matter is, Grandpa John was so good at Wii Bowling that he was talking trash in the most passive manner possible. I mean, it was ridiculous. He would say things like, "It's okay, Junior, that's why they give you 10 frames. And my personal favorite, my very personal favorite, a very sarcastic, "You did it," when a kid would get a spare, all right? I think, my kids were in such shock that I think 2 of them quit Wii Bowling altogether that day. Because, can you imagine getting schooled by your grandpa on something you're supposed to be good at? Think about that. 14 teenagers conversing with 20 retirees, laughing, sharing stories, and making memories. All of this is possible because of a video game and an opportunity given to young people. Now, I'd like to think what we've been able to accomplish is magic, but it's really not. The truth is, kids just want to be around other kids like themselves in an environment that is welcoming and socially acceptable, socially friendly, and safe. Video games offer a neutral platform in which jocks, brains, grandpas, and even introverts can see each other beyond the stereotypes society imposes on them. I now see all sorts of kids coming into the VGC, and they all relate to each other and their community through gaming. But most importantly for me, it has unlocked the door to a fantastic relationship with my own son. No, thank you. Oh, no, I'm not done. Thank you. I said thank you before. They warned us about that, by the way. Okay? I'm almost done. My name is Josh Bound, and I use video games to make the socially awkward socially active and to empower the youth of today to build relationships in order to have a positive impact on the world tomorrow. Thank you.